So, super yacht, well, insurance in general, I think is incredibly interesting. You know, the whole principle of it, no one likes paying it, but the whole principle of, you know, you have a relatively modest annual fee, but the payouts could be absolutely enormous. And the calculations around that, the underwriting, the understanding of how the insurer is able to make a profit, because that's what we're in business to do at the end of the day, that must be incredibly challenging, the commercials around the insurance market.
Yeah, it's extremely involved, and this, now I think is the territory of the actuary. I think the actuary is as important. I mean, if I go back to my Lloyd's time, and Lloyd's had certain reputations in the 80s and 90s, but the more entrepreneurial side of business, in that, the relationships with the insurance brokers was so strong that actually you weren't necessarily looking at just the piece of business in front of you. You were looking at their portfolio, your portfolio, and actually, some of those risks on paper, on email, as it may be now, were less appealing than others. But actually the more holistic viewpoint, and I think that's where Lloyd's at that time had that key advantage, that it was a marketplace and those brokers knew they maybe needed help on this one, but they'd given you some really good ones, or there's some other good ones to come, and you could take a bit of a viewpoint on it. And I think that where, maybe this is just a sign of my age, but I think where things are becoming much more almost formalized and regulated to such a high level, that entrepreneurial side of things by definition is being squeezed.
Yeah.
So actually, if you've got a relationship with someone who's providing a good or a service to you, and they know some of them are less appealing for them, but the other things are, they can do that. And I think that's sometimes is difficult to understand. I mean, just in terms of those big super yachts, we may now have the $1 billion value. I don't know. I guess so. I certainly got involved in a couple that were 800, 850 million.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, that's a sizable investment for the owner.
Oh, massively.
And a lot of protection risk for you. It's all about risk management, isn't it?
Risk management, I think, is the key. That certainly was the buzzword, and still is. And for the clients that have vessels at that sort of value, it's not just a one-off. They've got fleets of them, and many of them own many sports teams, and some own countries. So you get all that reputational side that starts to bring in, and you find yourself sometimes in not a political position in terms of your own viewpoints, but actually political, because you know who the client is, what that might look like, and you sort of work all that stuff in.